Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. It is a great honor to be here. The big question for the American economy right now is, where are the American workers? Where are the workers? If you ask any small businessman or woman, I bet every one of you in your districts are facing the same issue. Businesses are saying they're having a very difficult time getting workers back on the job. Heidi is right that it's a strong jobs market right now. The big problem is finding the workers to fill those jobs. Why are Americans not in the workforce at the rate that they have traditionally been? I would make two arguments. Number one, real wages have declined very sharply in the last 2 years. And this is, of course, a result of the massive increase in inflation that hit 9.2%. So just to put this in perspective, the average worker in America since Biden came into office has lost somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,500 to $4,000 in annual income. That means work isn't paying, because even though wages are up nominally, as Heidi was saying, in real terms, people's purchasing powers have gotten killed. And that's the reason you're seeing so much economic pessimism around the country. People are feeling it every day. The other problem is we're paying too much for people not to work. And I hope that this committee will address that as one of the #1 problems in the country. In other words, we are not making work pay, we're making not working pay with the welfare benefits that have been provided. So quickly, one of the big mistakes that we made during COVID that accelerated the collapse in jobs. Obviously, shutting down the economy as we did, especially in blue states, turned out to be one of the greatest catastrophes, I think, in American history economically. It didn't have health benefits, but it sure did destroy small businesses and jobs for workers. What's happened since, if you look at my testimony, if you look at this figure on page 3, if you have it in front of you, and this has been persistent for the last 30 months. The blue states that locked down their economies have had persistently higher unemployment than the red states that remained open. It's also true that these blue states, like New York and Connecticut and California, provide much, much higher benefits to people for not working than red states do, and that's caused the unemployment rate problem to be worse. It's frustrating to me because, when you look at 2020, the beginning of 2020, the United States had probably the best, in many ways, the best economy ever in the history of this country. We had the lowest unemployment rate for every group, for blacks, Hispanics, Asians, single mothers. We had the lowest poverty rate for blacks, Hispanics, every demographic group. And of course, we had very rapid rises in income. And subsequently, that has reversed. And so you've seen these declines in income that are making work not pay. Now, a couple of other things that I'd like to point out quickly. One is we have to do welfare reform. We have to get back to the reforms that we put in place in 1996 under a Democratic President, Bill Clinton, and a Republican Congress that was headed by Newt Gingrich as the Speaker of the House. One of the most successful programs in the last 50 years in terms of social policy changes was that bipartisan welfare reform. And at the heart of that reform was two things. One, time limits on how long people could get welfare. We're not saying get rid of the social net. We're a wealthy country. Absolutely should have a safety net for people. But it should not be a way of life. It should be a temporary assistance program. So we time limited these programs. And the other thing that is absolutely critical, every single welfare payment program that you administer at the federal level, every program should require work or training. It was a huge success, and the benefits of welfare reform exceeded anybody's expectations. If you look at what happened after 1996, we saw the most dramatic decline in welfare, in people on welfare in the history of the welfare state. After welfare reform happened, what happened to those people? They got into the workforce. What happened to them when they got in the workforce? Their earnings rose. It was a tremendous success. The child poverty rate after welfare reform was lower than it had ever been since the 1960s. So huge, huge benefits across the board from welfare reform, not just for the overall economy, but the people who are on welfare, because there is dignity in work, and there is a lot of economic success on that. 3 quick recommendations other than welfare reform, just for you all to think about. Number 1, We need more legal immigrants in this country. We should be increasing our legal immigrant numbers very significantly. These are people who will enter the workforce. Immigrants have very high labor force participation rates. Our immigration levels I'm talking about legal. We need to increase that. Number two, something to think about. There's an old saying that the age 70 is the new 50. If you look at the Social Security program, there's a flaw in that program. Benefits for people who continue to work after 70 are not actuarially, so people are being punished in terms of working after the age of 70. We have to correct that. So if somebody works to the age of 75 or 78, their benefits for their lifetime should be adjusted so that they're not reduced. Because you know what? We're an aging population. We need older people to be working. And by the way, people who work longer when they're old have higher life expectancies. And then finally, don't overtax investment. I know just one quick point. The Biden tax plan, if you were to put that calamity into effect, the tax rate on an investment would go to 80%. Who is going to invest in a small business at an 80% tax rate? Okay, thank you.